We will talk about string class here. What is the string class? It's a class written particularly to manage text and string. As human beings, we have a lot of knowledge. Our knowledge are most written in text. I would argue that also a lot of knowledge are passed by from people to people, but in our generation right now, we kind of ignore, or we don't we respect text more than human to human passing of knowledge, which personally I do not quite agree, but let's not get into philosophical discussion right now. um we need a class to particularly to manage string, uh, because like you see the C string, which is I think in the earlier days that's what people use, and there was no string class. You can see it was a little bit difficult. You have to know the data structure, you have to know that it's a character string, you have to know that at the end there would be a null character, and then when you manipulate it you keep having to check on if you get to the end already, and so on. And I think that's then there is this C string class to give you a little bit of functionality to manage C string. But this string class is a little bit different. Even the how the basically the representation of a string, you don't have to know about it. So all the details are kind of hidden. They give you just tell you ways of how to use this string class. It then that's why it requires the include string directive, because all the code are in there and you need to include this so that compiler knows where to find the code to run whatever function you want to use to manipulate the string variable. You can declare and initialize a string like in many other or almost all variables. So the variable name file can take in the input.dat, just like that. You're very familiar with this. In C string, you need a square bracket here just because it's an array. Here you don't need to. A separate way of initialize and declare in one line is doing this. We will talk more about this in the classes, but it's quite common to initialize and declare a class variable this way. Declare and then initialize, so in two separate steps. String file, that's it. You don't need to tell it how long the string might be, and that's why it's nice, right? So when you ask your users for a sentence or ask your user for the file name, you don't have to say, hey, you can only type in how much, however long, or how many characters. And then you can actually assign the value afterwards. You could using an equal sign, just like it's an integer, just like it's another other kind of data type. But C string, you cannot actually do this. The compiler will complain. There are many predefined functions to manipulate string. So the documentation is here if you follow this link. First of all, I want to show you the accessor and modifier functions. These are just from display 8.7 from your textbook. I recommend that you look at this carefully, look at how each function can be used. There's a description. I think they did a really good job. So I would recommend that you pause the video and try to read them. If you can't see it on the screen, read it from the textbook. I'm going to show how they can be used. But I think to familiarize yourself first might help you to understand what I'm talking about also in the demo. So feel free to stop the video. Now I'm going to do the demo. So here is the demo I would like to show you. Let's look at the variables that we declared for it. File 1, file 2, both has the value of input.dat. And first line, we print out assessor function because that's what we are going to show. So you see that we are trying to access file 1 square bracket 0. And I'm going to check if file 1 dot add position 0 are the same. So basically these two do the same thing. They both access the first character, which is I, and that's why I equals to I, so it prints out that they are doing the same thing, like so here. The length of file 1. Length for file 1 is 9. There's 9 characters. And then I thought the file extension is a little bit interesting. So what I did was that I compile the length of the file 1 string first, and then because I know it's the last 3 characters, so I do -3. So I know the start character is at number 6 basically, and then I get the next 3 characters. That's how substring works. And so you see file extension will be evaluated to DAT, and I can see out it directly because because all these functions actually output or return a string. And so it's something that you might want to also pay attention to when you read a definition, like or basically the documentation, right, will tell you, does it return a string, does it return an integer? For example, the length actually return an integer, and that's why I can see out it directly. Not everything can be see out, and you can see a reason, like with something that makes sense. Okay. And then what I did was I changed the file to the first character to O. So you can see that this format can be used to access the first the character in a certain position, but it also can be used to change the value of that character in that position. So after I did this, or after this line is evaluated, file 2 has changed to onPut.dat. So the first character is changed to O. Now let's look at the comparison functions. So what I did is comparing file 1 to file 2, or as you know, the file 1 is still input.dat, but file 2 is now onPut.dat. And so we use equal to compare them. They evaluate to 0. I know because what will be output is a boolean, right? So 0 is always false. Any other value is true, and so I know they are not equal. And when we evaluate or compare them with the not equal, it returns true. And then I ask which one is larger. So because the comparison is not about length or anything else, but it's basically like when you compare strings, you compare the first character, A is smaller than B. Basically, it's like alphabetical. And so input is actually smaller because I is earlier than O, right? And so it evaluate to true. And when I compare the two file name, in the other direction, is set false, apparently. So and now if we look at the assignment and modifiers, it's this part. Originally I have this variable moto. C++ is fun with an exclamation mark. I hope you feel the same. And then I use insert to insert the word super in it and see how it was done. So I insert in the 7th position. Remember, we always count from 0. We are computer scientists. So we start from 0, and then we also have to take care of where the blank space are. And so I had to go and count 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 is a space. So it actually will basically 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so it will be after the 6, or 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it will, interesting. Actually, anyways, we know how it functions. Yes. Right, it's the 7th position. That's why, number 6 and then 7th here. So at the point of fun F, it will actually put this super space at the point where F was, and that's why and then fun got pushed afterwards. We move using erase. Basically, we can erase one I just erased one character, which is the exclamation point, and I also use the length to help me, because I know the position of the exclamation point is the length -1, and then I erase just one character, and so the output is C++ is super fun without the exclamation mark. And then you can append. One of the nicest thing about this string, I think that's what most people use, is being able to use the plus sign to just add the a substring, basically more text to it. I basically, after I remove the exclamation point, space add an additive exclamation point is added to the variable moto. So now it reads C++ is super fun and addictive. And you can also use it like plus equal, just like integers. So the designer of the string class was very nice to do it, to implement this. I think is very nice touch. So remember, in here we didn't change the variable moto. We just directly add it and output it, but we didn't assign anything to the variable moto, and that's why it stayed the same. C++ is super fun. When we do plus equal, though, moto is changed, so we add 3 exclamation point, and that's what you see here. Now lastly, the find function. What we did was to find plus inside the moto string, and as you can see, it's in the number 1 position. That's why it returned 1. This function find return the index of the occurrence of the substring that you are looking for, and then you can find the first of first of all, let's try do this first. You can also find it after a certain position. So in this call, it try to look for plus, but after the 10th character, and that's why it will return false. So and I tested with the string ::: NPOS, which is in the documentation that you saw, that's in the slides, and because it returned basically no position, and so I output, hey, we cannot find it. Then this find any of is we are looking for any of exclamation mark A or B or C. If it's find, it will return the index because the first character in the motto string is C, and so it will return 0 because that's the first character that it found. So you see 0 here. So and then I said found not, like found first not of. It's basically find anything that is not exclamation mark A or B or C, which if you look at the string is the first one is the plus, right? So it returns 1. So this is how to use the member functions.